Hi, so good morning to everyone. Good morning to everyone in the UK anyway, or good afternoon, good evening to anyone, wherever you're watching this around the world. This is the first time I'm at to say that, actually, because one of our guests is all the way over in New Zealand, so about as far away as you can get from where myself and Pete are in Yorkshire. So Pete and Paul, I will introduce you both. I'll ask you to introduce yourselves in a second, but just want to kind of summarize today. We're going to be talking about sales. We all know for a lot of business, if not all businesses, the economic situation has really changed in the last few months, and it's going to be a while before we anywhere near back to normal. So it's going to be really important for businesses to get their sales strategy, function, processes right, for them to be able to come out of this stronger and better. Now, fortunately, what we do have today is two experts in this field, and they'll be able to answer some questions, which I'm going to launch into in a minute. But first, Pete and Paul, I'll go to you, Paul, first as our guest, to kind of just quickly introduce yourself and who you are, and then we can go from there.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Paul O'Donoghue here. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Star, and I'm calling in from New Zealand. So good evening to our viewers from down under, and good morning for all our viewers in the Northern Hemisphere.
Thank you, Paul. Pete?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Pete Evans, and with Paul, we're just launching Star in UK. So I'm going to be the MD of Star UK. A lot of people on the call would probably know me as Pete Evans from Ventus. So very much looking forward to this interview, Michael, and thanks for inviting myself and Paul to be interviewed by yourself again.
Oh no, you're very, very welcome. As anyone obviously watching this will be on either our LinkedIn page, Facebook page, or Twitter page as well, live. We'll also be people to watch in playback and other such like through those channels, but also on our YouTube channel. So if people do have any questions as well or any comments for Pete or Paul while we're doing this, obviously type it in now. Obviously, if it is after the live, we'll pass them on to Pete and Paul, and they'll be able to get back to you, I'm sure. Time differences allowing, depending on what time the question comes in, but we'll get them across to the guys at some point as well. So my first question, I guess, is as we know, we're especially in the UK, we're about 2.5-3 months into the whole COVID-19 lockdown situation. How, from your guys' point of view, how has it impacted the whole sales world? We'll start with you, Paul, if that's okay.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of impacts. For a start, little old New Zealand can't get on a plane. We can't travel anywhere. So it's really impacted our exporting companies. So it's impacted most companies, most industries significantly, especially tourism, travel industries. It would be fair to say that most companies are battening down the hatches. Their budgets are shrinking, and they are going to be cautious in terms of spending. So sales are going to slow down, and we're starting to see that. Everyone's taken a bit of a dip, or most industries. And what we're actually seeing, though, is in the last 3 months, we're seeing the biggest shift in sales than in the history of selling. We're moving from traditional face-to-face selling to more screen-to-screen selling, and the use of digital platforms like LinkedIn to be effective. Like this is a good example. I'm so far away on the other side of the planet, but we can have a conversation. We can connect online. So the world has become smaller. So, I think COVID-19 is normalizing technology, and it's really paving a way for forward-thinking companies that embrace technology and they want to grow new markets. What about you, Pete?
I mean, some great comments there, Paul. I think for me, one of the things that COVID-19 has proved is that we can transition to a new world. I think for a lot of our clients and people we're speaking to who are sort of prospects, it's showing them how they can do things differently. And I think, when you're dealing particularly with complex sales situations where there's a number of decision makers, one of the things that could stall deals in the past was getting everybody in the room at once because they were so busy. Because people are working remotely or working from home, it's actually a lot easier to get decision makers on the same call, even if they're based in different countries. I think it's really shaken up the world of sales because salespeople and business people were used to having face-to-face meetings. You can be a lot more productive. You can have more meetings in a day. And also, one of our clients was telling us this week, the amount of money they spent on travel is basically at zero. So actually, it can make you offer better value to your customers as well. So although I think there've been quite a few negatives, I think there are a lot of positives coming out of it. I think the point about decision makers and budgets being under threat, I think this is a real opportunity to demonstrate how much value you can bring. And rather than being seen as an unnecessary cost, make yourself a critical part of your client's business.
I think that's really a really interesting point, actually, Pete, around the kind of things like the decision-making process and all that when it comes to sales. Is that will it be easier in the future? Will I guess for people who will identify that and change how they do things and not just trying to do the same but online, could really benefit as we move forward in this Zoom and various other digital world.
I think you're absolutely right, Michael. We're starting to see that now. I think we have a choice on how we respond to a crisis. In Chinese, the Chinese word for crisis is represented by two characters, and one is danger, and the other one is opportunity. And I think as sales leaders, we get to choose whether we want to focus on the danger, stay small and don't grow and sort of just get into survival mode, or we lean into thinking about the opportunity that exists. And, I just want to sort of touch on Pete's comments. The virtual world, selling screen to screen is a significant move. And I think it's here to stay for those that are forward thinking and are progressive in terms of growth, because it fundamentally changes the landscape and the playing field in sales. It significantly brings the cost of sales down, and for a lot of companies, it opens the world. It opens up different markets. So when you've got the cost of sales coming down in new markets, it's a really good time to grow. Think about growth during a crisis. So there are many opportunities during a crisis. We should never waste a good crisis.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think you can either focus on survival or you can focus on growth. And Paul made a great point to me a few weeks ago, is that it's about owning the space and saying that you're open for business. And I think, the digital platform's a great way of doing that. You can reach out to more people. You can offer services remotely. And we've got some clients who are selling big engineering solutions, and their sales forces have had their eyes wide open how you can sell something that is a physical product without even meeting the customer, and how you can use it as an opportunity to shorten your sales. I think it's all about embracing a change in your own mindset. And I think those clients that want to go back to the old ways of doing things will probably be left behind, because we're finding in our team that when we ring up a prospect and say the first meeting will be via Zoom, then they're really embracing as well. And I think your customers want things to change. And we've got customers who are saying, we don't think we'll meet you face to face until mid-2021.
That's fantastic for you, Pete. Just think of all the time you spend traveling. You don't have to do that. What we learned, I started the business 16 years ago, and we went through the global financial crisis, and we banked a lot of learnings on how to sell in tough economic conditions. And, one of the learnings was you actually have to spend more time on winnable deals, but disqualify deals that aren't winnable. So if you think about and I think every company should think about sales process re-engineering, rethinking sales process and incorporating something digital in that, whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's selling screen to screen. But for example, when you're selling screen to screen and you're having your first discovery meetings, it's a lot more efficient. But you can, if you've got a very good consultative selling process and a good qualifying process, you can quickly disqualify the deals that aren't winnable. And then we get to choose. And we know that companies are going to take a lot longer to buy from us because they're a lot more cautious. So, we can spend time nurturing those clients through creating a compelling reason for them to buy, and showing them an ROI is going to be key. So there are a lot of efficiencies and upsides to this selling in COVID-19 economy.
Yeah, I love what Paul said there about using it as an opportunity to qualify opportunity zones early in the process. I think using digital platforms like Zoom or Microsoft Teams is a great way of doing that. Imagine going to see a prospect and spending, an hour in the car getting there, 45-minute meeting, an hour in the car back to your office. You've actually wasted half a day. But if you have a 45-minute discovery meeting with somebody on Zoom, for example, and it's not going to go any further, you've actually got another 2 hours you can invest in qualifying other prospects in.
I think it's a really interesting point around the travel side, and it might be different for you, Paul, but I think one of the things about the UK is that whilst we have quite a big population, our country is quite small, and you can get pretty much anywhere in our country within a few hours drive. So there's always that temptation to jump in the car and drive, from me and Pete up in Yorkshire, to drive to London or to Scotland. It's 3, 4, 5 hours tops. And so there's actually always that temptation. And I think maybe we've resisted the technology a little bit. And I think a lot of people were very reticent when we first started this to use video for whatever it might be. But I think I've really turned around. It's been a big shift. I'm sure Pete would agree with me in the last few weeks, with people now accepting video. And I think that's here to stay.
And right there, Michael, was the opportunity. Like, we've been selling this way for the last 3 years with a little bit of resistance from our prospects, jumping on Zoom. And it's often met with, well, when are you going to actually come and visit me? The reality is most of the times we don't have to visit them at all, because our services are delivered online remotely as well. We can sell effectively. We can just do the discovery meeting. We can present a solution really well online. So we don't actually have to travel. It's kind of, we're stuck in our own thinking. Like, I live in Auckland, and it's a big city, nowhere near as big as London, but it's just as hard to get around. It can take an hour to drive from one side to the next. I don't even go and visit people in Auckland. It's all done by Zoom. So what COVID-19 has done is normalized the way we're selling. The rest of the population has finally caught up with us. So that's created a massive opportunity, to normalize screen-to-screen selling.
Yeah,
that's great.
Hey guys, I can see a couple of questions on the.
I was just about to ask these, but I'll flick them up. I know it's something. So yeah, Peter has asked a really good question here, and I know it's something that came out, especially when all this first started, about people feeling insensitive or sensitive about selling. So it'd be interesting. I know we've had a response to that as well from Holly. Is obviously she doesn't agree, and I think, having spoken to you about this, Pete, before, I know your answer, but I'll leave it to you guys to kind of give you.
I'll have a chat about that. I think selling has got a negative connotation. Full stop. Right. I think people when people think about selling, it's they automatically think of a pushy salesperson that doesn't really listen, that's just trying to sell you something. But if we reframe our thinking about what selling is, and we humanize it, it's to help people, it's to serve people. And from a consultative selling point of view and a strategy, if you can put your customer first and not yourself, you will make more sales than someone that puts himself first. And you're going to get found out pretty quick. So my synopsis of selling is to help and to serve. So there are a lot of people, doesn't matter what product or service you have out there, there's a lot of people hurting. And so, we've just got to be genuine and really helping future prospects and people to get unstuck. And, to sell is to help. So if you want to help people, and if you want to serve people, if you want to make a difference, then we need to sell.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think actually it's not incentive to be talking to your customers and prospects about the value you can bring them. I think if you focus on value, creating value, nurturing people through, then you'll create an environment where, reiterating what Paul said, you're actually serving your customers and adding value. I think it's this image that people have of the pushy, double glazing type salesperson. But actually, I think if you're creating value, you'll identify opportunity and you can help your customers, because the customers that you're selling to have pain points. And despite COVID, there are companies out there that have continued to got pain points, and there are companies that have got budgets to spend.
Absolutely. And we've had another good question, which for some reason it's not come through who sent it, so apologies. But it's kind of, I guess it's another step on from the last question. It's about prospects are maybe saying now, well, I want to stay with who my previous partner is, whether it's someone who does your marketing or whatever it might be, and they're not looking at alternatives to switch. What would you say to maybe solve that objection that people will be getting?
Yeah, there's a good framework you can use called a needs analysis, NEADS. So the N is, well, who do you use now? Yeah, just get them talking. What do you enjoy? The E is, what do you enjoy about these services? They must be doing a great job if you're not looking at anyone else. The A is, and it's a needs with an A, is what would you adjust or alter about what they're doing? And that provides you a little crack in terms of maybe something that they're not offering, or a little pain point about their service, or a feature that they're not providing. The D is decision making. So if you were to consider a new supplier, what is your decision making process? In terms of considering someone like a new supplier. And the S is solutions. Would you be prepared to look at a new solution to put you into a better space and give you a better service? So, that's one strategy. There are, Pete, what other strategies do you think you could apply?
I love the acronym you've come up with there. I think, key, this is about consultative selling and back to creating value. And I think if you ask a prospect is to say, ask them to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how successful that partner they've got is in delivering value to them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, if you've got a client and you're a supplier, and there is other suppliers, and you're trying to grow their share of wallet, I go back to a great strategy that we've used through COVID-19, and our clients have been using, is a process called hugs. Like, just in consultative selling, we teach how to be a trusted advisor. And just reflecting on the question earlier on, right now it's about being the trusted carer. We got to show that we're caring. So we came up with a framework called Hugs, and it's really to show genuine concern for our own clients. So the H stands for help. So it's ringing up your database because you really want to shore up your current accounts and make sure that your clients are well looked after. So we're calling them up and just saying, hey, Michael, how are you? How are you coping through COVID-19? Is there anything we can help with? So Hugs, H is the help, and U is just understanding how you're feeling, understanding what's going on, understanding, how you've been impacted through COVID-19 and what you're trying to do. G is just give them some guidance. Doesn't cost you anything. So if you can help them, give them some guidance. And if it's not you, then who? Like, who else in your network could absolutely get your client unstuck? And the yes, only if it's appropriate, you might provide some solutions. You might give them a triplicate of choice. One could be a freemium product or solution. The other one might be a product that fits the current environment in terms of fitting for the economic environment. And the third one could be your full enchilada, your premium option. And some people still buy that. But here's the strategy, right? That's the strategy, but your customers will always remember you for that. Now, if the incumbent or your competitor's not doing that, then they're not giving them hugs, they're not caring, they'll also remember that. So as the economy gets stronger, if you're the one being the trusted carer, they're going to come to you and you're going to grow your share of the market.
Absolutely. So we had a nice comment earlier, Pete, from your point you made of it about it's quite a positive thing actually, finding that clients are taking opportunity to invest in their sales assets at the moment, which is great to hear. We've had another question as well about what's your take on people hiring salespeople at the moment? What's your understanding of what's going on? Which we've had a great response as well from Adrian. Believes that the demand for top salespeople will increase in the next 6 months. Obviously, finding them will be the difficulty. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll pick up that one first. I think that there's going to be lots of organisations making salespeople redundant. We're already seeing that in the UK. So the market is going to be awash with salespeople. I think one of the the most challenging things that organisations are going to face when they're wanting to hire salespeople is how do they find the A players, and how do they not just take on average or poor salespeople? And I think, as you know, Michael, both Paul and I's businesses are partners of Objective Management Group, or OMG. So I think it's about making sure you have a robust hiring process and you use an assessment tool to screen out people who are not going to be fit for purpose for your organisation. And because into the thousands of salespeople that are going to be on the marketplace looking for jobs, how do you pick the A players that have got the right mindset?
Absolutely. Yeah, look, if you want to grow sales, hire better salespeople. And there are going to be a lot of really, really good salespeople on the market because for genuine reasons, they might be in this industry sector that's really been impacted and they've had to be made redundant. But, equally, there could be a lot of surplus salespeople around that were C players anyway, and their companies got rid of them because it was, convenient to make them redundant in real tough times. So what I know about salespeople is they do their best selling at the interview. We have other candidates, but we want to make sure we hire someone that's effective for your business. And you've got to wrap some science around that. And I know the guys at Ventus and we at SalesStar, we use some scientific tools from Objective Management Group that help cut through some of the BS that you hear in sales meetings to really understand the effectiveness of someone's capabilities and whether they can sell for your company.
Oh, that's good. So Paul, I was going to ask you, if you don't mind. Obviously, you're all the way over in New Zealand. Why have you set up in the UK? What prompted that?
Several reasons, really. Well, we've been partnering Pete for well over 3 years, actually. So he's been a licensed partner, and Pete and his team have done a phenomenal job. The Ventus team are an incredible team. They're absolutely professionals when it comes to helping clients transform their sales results. So there's a massive trust factor. We trust Pete and his team. So that was an easy decision. There's no qualms there. But New Zealand is such a tiny market. We've got 5 million people, probably about as many sheep as you have in the population of humans. The UK is 12 times bigger than New Zealand. So bigger population, larger companies, a lot of head offices in the UK. And, for us, timing's everything. In a crisis, I reckon it's time to double down and you start growing. We've got a growth mindset if you haven't picked that up by now. But I think the timing's perfect because the strategies that we teach were born out of the fire of adversity through the global financial crisis. So, we've got a lot of strategies that really help companies that are really hurting through these times, and we can help accelerate growth. And we want to do that not only in New Zealand, but in the UK.
Excellent. We've had another questions, if you don't mind us asking this as well. So
absolutely. Bring them on.
A great sales player. So how do you define that? And obviously, we keep hearing about the new normal or a different normal or a better normal. Is there going to be a different type of sales talent? Is it going to take different types of people?
Do you want me to answer that, Pete? And
yeah, you go first, and I'll follow on from that. Great question, though.
Yeah, through the GFC, they started talking about the new normal, right? And people were expecting the economy to bounce back up, and it never did for a very, very long time. And that was the new normal. So the new normal now is really, we're in for a very, very long winter economically. This it's going to be a long grind, more than 18 months, I believe, probably for a good 3 years. So the new normal really is dealing with clients that are going to provide you with pushback, clients that are going to say they've got no budget, shrinking markets, and embracing technology, like the technology, the horse is bolting in terms of utilizing screen to screen, utilizing LinkedIn to spark conversations and create connections to create leads. So that's the new normal. The type of salesperson that is going to thrive must have absolutely sensational consultative selling skills. Like you need to be able to really build trust with your prospects and your customers. You need to understand their objectives. You need to be really clear on the problems and challenges they have related to the objectives and what you can solve. And you need to be able to quantify that in terms of what it's costing them, personally, financially, emotionally, the impact on their business. And what you really need to be able to do is build a phenomenal business case, because people will spend if they have to spend. They won't spend if you're a salesperson that's selling on features and benefits, if you're a salesperson that's pending your sales strategy on relationship. You need to demonstrate value, as Pete said earlier on, and you do that from consultative selling, building up the ROI and demonstrating value. The other thing, Pete, you might want to touch on account management and negotiation.
Yeah, well, I was going to pick up on something you said there, and I think a lot of salespeople have relied on this expression. I've got great relationships with my customers. I think the new breed of salesperson, to pick up on what Paul said about being great at consultative selling. Actually, if you're great at consultative selling, you'll be able to identify with your prospects, disrupt the current incumbents, and get the prospect to spend more money with you, because you'll create the value. And I think, picking up Paul's point as well, salespeople will need to get much better at negotiating, because margins are going to be under pressure, budgets are going to be under pressure, prospects and even existing customers are going to be asking for discounts, and you've got to be able to hold firm on your pricing and represent and discuss the value and create the need. And you can only create the need through being a fantastic consultative seller. The days of salespeople just getting business on the back of "I've got a great relationship" are gone. And circling this back to the use of digital, selling screen to screen is a completely different skill set, because you've got to be able to build rapport and trust quickly with your prospects, and your existing clients are going to be under attack from great salespeople from your competitors.
Yeah, good people are going to get found out, Michael. So you need to be a great person to survive and thrive in COVID-19 economy.
Yeah, and I guess there's an opportunity there for people who maybe, were in sales and it maybe wasn't working out for them. Actually, things have changed. So maybe the new might suit them more, that they might be more suited to it. So if they can get their head around that, there might actually be some opportunities for people.
Well, the good thing is anyone can learn it. Sales is a process. You just have to be really clear on what an effective sales process looks like for your company. And if you follow the process and you're coachable and you do the numbers and you follow it, ask the right questions, anyone can be great. An introvert can be good. It doesn't matter about personalities, as long as you've got the desire and commitment to do the activity and to learn.
Yeah. And 80% of it is down to the mindset of the salesperson or the person doing the selling. And I think what COVID has done, coming right back to your first question, Michael, is that it has just transformed the world of sales overnight. So people who are selling have had to sell screen to screen, and they've had to get used to a new way of doing things. And I think it was interesting. There was a discussion on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, which we talked about, where somebody posted, "I can't wait to go back to the old way of doing things and seeing people face to face."
Yeah, unfortunately, people that go back to the old way of doing things are going to lose market share when things come right, because the progressive companies will stay with the new way of selling because it's much more efficient. It's going to make much more calls, get more clients on board, and they're going to grow the market.
Absolutely. And I know, speaking of kind of learning and developing and things like that, I've seen that, Paul, you've been doing these Rock the Recession webinars. Is that right?
Recession, yeah.
Tell us all about them.
Oh, well, we're into week 11 starting tomorrow, actually. We've done a series. We just wanted to give back to the community. We wanted to, there's a lot of companies out there that are going through a tough time, and we wanted to put a real positive spin on things and just give a ton of value. So Rock the Recession, we thought that would be a positive name, and we were sick of hearing about COVID-19 for starters. So we're just giving tips on what companies need to be thinking about to be recession ready, to come out of the COVID-19 economy flying, really growing market share. So we're going to be rolling in a series starting from the 2nd of July in the UK. And the first series, it'll be a series of 12. We'll be talking about our learnings from selling in a tough economic conditions. So from the GFC, the global financial crisis, the learnings from that, the type of salesperson that needs to thrive in those tough conditions. We'll be talking about leadership. We'll also be talking about mindset. We'll be talking about account management. There's a series on recruitment. There's a series on selling, have an effective sales process. So there are a lot of topics that are really pertinent and needed right now. So be tuned in for that. How do they find out about that Rock the Recession series there, Pete?
So, Michael, we can publicise the link to register for the Rock the Recession webinars, or if anybody wants further details about the series we're running in the UK, is to contact me via LinkedIn, or they can, if you're happy, Michael, circulate my details after this interview.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the next thing, kind of last point as well. If people want to kind of contact either of you guys, find out more about what you do, where's the best places to go?
Probably for me, if people want to reach out and connect on LinkedIn, that's a good place to start. Would it be the same for you as well, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn, connect with me, send me a message if you're interested in Rock the Recession. Yeah. I'll send you the details so you can register. It's free. We're going to be doing it weekly. It's 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, starting from the 2nd of July. We're getting well over 500 people up to these every week. So they've been hugely valuable, and we've had a lot of guest appearances from different thought leaders and coaches over those weeks.
That's great. Now, I was going to finish there, but we just had one last question in. So are you? I know it's late for you, Paul. Are you okay to answer one last question?
Yeah, no problems at all.
So Duncan has asked her, but as a leader of a sales team, how do you keep the team focused when then obviously they're very aware of any structural and cultural changes that's going to be happening? I think it's a really good question, actually, how to keep people on track with all that's going on.
Well, it all starts with leadership. We've got to be really mindful about how we're being and how we're showing up. So sales leaders have to have a really, really strong mindset. Be careful about what we actually say, and be very clear and intentional. So if you've got a clear sales plan, and we should have a plan, like if you've got a clear plan, then it's easy to stay calm and focus. So having a clear plan and sharing that with your team, or having your team help build the plan. I always say that those that help plan the fight don't plan. So, get everyone engaged. Give everyone clarity on where you're going to. So clarity will come certainty, and communicate. So over-communicate. It's when we don't communicate, there's generally a void, and people fill that up with negativity. So there's uncertainty, there's undoubt. They might be scared that, their jobs are on the line. So we've just got to be really clear and certain on what the game plan is, and how they make an impact on that game.
Good. Anything else from you, Pete, do you think?
I would agree with what Paul said. I think one of the clear things is that if you've got a very clear plan, you can get your salespeople excited about what's coming. And I think actually it does come down to leadership. Think about how you're communicating with your team. I think salespeople will be nervous, but I think again, this is about redoubling your efforts as a sales leader. Use that, invest the time in coaching them, coach them around how to do screen-to-screen selling, practice, role play. And I think for me, one of the key things we've learned is rather than trying to focus on the next 12 months, is focus on what you can achieve in the next 90 days and break that down into a monthly and a weekly plan as well. It's getting the focus. And I think listen. As a leader, one of the key skills you've got is listening to your salespeople, listen to their concerns, understand their concerns, and use it as an opportunity to invest more time with them.
Hey, the other thing I would say is celebrate success. And, in normal times, we celebrate the sales when we make sales. But during the global financial crisis, we were encouraging our clients to just celebrate little wins, celebrate, having expiration meetings, having presentations, all the little activities that lead to a sale. Like, you've got to create a culture, a really positive culture. So, celebrate winning.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I think that sounds like a fantastic place to finish.
Yeah.
So thank you both for your time. Obviously, Paul, I know it's late where you are, so you can get to bed now. No, thank you very much both for your time. It's been really, really interesting. I'm sure it helped a lot of people.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Good work.